The lights were bright, the applause loud, and the smiles perfectly timed. The cameras rolled as Stephen Colbert welcomed Denzel Washington to The Late Show. The audience cheered, expecting charm, wit, and stories about his new film. It was supposed to be routine a Hollywood actor promoting a historical drama about resistance, legacy, and redemption. But something was different that night. Denzel walked on stage with quiet purpose. He wasn't grinning. He wasn't waving. He shook Stephen's hand and sat down slowly, eyes scanning the room as if measuring more than just the size of the audience. Colbert opened the segment with his usual warmth, teasing, "So, Denzel, the new movie's about fighting injustice. Haven't you had enough of that already?" The crowd laughed. Denzel didn't. There was a pause a beat too long. Then he leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and spoke, not to Stephen, but to the camera. "You ever ask yourself why we call this entertainment?" he said softly. "When it's shaping how people think, feel, even vote?" Colbert blinked. He tried to smile. "Well, we like to think we're making people laugh, giving them a break." Denzel's voice remained steady. "Break from what? The truth?" The audience chuckled nervously. Stephen glanced off stage, perhaps toward his producers. "I think someone's been reading heavy this week," he joked, trying to recover. "But," Denzel pressed on, "we pretend this place, this whole industry is neutral, that we just reflect the world. But we choose what we reflect. We choose the lens. And when you control the lens, you control the memory." Colbert tried again, reaching for a safer question. Okay, so let's talk about the film. "You play." "No," Denzel interrupted. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the laughter like a knife. "Why are we still pretending?" He said, "We smile, we sell, we spin. While out there on the streets, in courtrooms, in classrooms, truth is being rewritten, silenced." The studio grew quiet. Even the band stopped tapping out background notes. Colbert shifted in his seat. His voice grew tense. "Are you saying this show, this platform, is part of some ... machine?" "I'm saying," Denzel replied, "that the difference between a mask and a uniform is who tells you to wear it." A long silence followed. Colbert looked at his cue cards, then at the camera, then back at Denzel. "I think maybe we're getting a little heavy for late night," he said with a strained smile. Denzel didn't smile. "Too late for polite lies." Those were his last words before the screen went black. CBS cut the feed, calling it a technical issue. The rerun started playing a minute later. On social media, the clip was nowhere. The official YouTube channel never uploaded it. News outlets said the interview had ended early due to audio difficulties. But by midnight, the full uncut version appeared on an encrypted video sharing forum. Then Telegram. Then Reddit. In the leaked footage, you could see it clearly: Colbert's nervous glance to someone off camera, the crew shifting uncomfortably, Denzel's unwavering stare into the lens. As if speaking directly to everyone watching at home, within hours, millions had seen it. Too Late for Polite Lies began trending in over 10 countries. Hashtags like #DenzelLeak and #narrative control spread across social platforms. Theories exploded. Some called it bravery, others called it a setup. But no one could deny what. They saw Denzel hadn't lost his cool. He had come with something to say. By sunrise, journalists tried to reach Denzel's team. No response. His publicist declined to comment. His official accounts went silent. That same evening, black SUV was seen leaving Denzel's home in Beverly Hills. A neighbor reported it, thinking it was routine. But when paparazzi arrived an hour later, the house was empty. Security footage from a nearby gas station showed a man resembling Denzel entering a private jet hangar at Van Nuys Airport. The next moment, he was gone. No flight logs. No trail. Gone. By the next morning, CBS issued another statement. "We respect Mr. Washington's voice and passion. We look forward to having him back in the future." But there was no apology. No explanation. And still no Denzel. Meanwhile, a former studio tech posted anonymously on a whistleblower site. He claimed Denzel had warned the crew backstage. They'll try to spin this, so don't just watch what I say. Watch who cuts the feed. And sure enough, frame by frame, you could see it. A floor manager giving the hand signal. A producer speaking into a mic, a delay. Choice. It wasn't technical. It was censorship. And somewhere, in a place no one could confirm, Denzel Washington was watching it unfold. Watching the world wonder why he chose that moment to speak up, and why he vanished the same night. The apartment in Lisbon was small, barely furnished, and smelled faintly of salt and dust. Lena Qureshi sat by the window, her laptop closed, her thoughts spinning. She'd been covering political stories for nearly a decade, from border conflicts to whistleblower trials, but nothing prepared her for this. Denzel Washington's live interview had cracked something open. Not just the network's defenses, people's minds. Something deep had shifted. And now she was chasing what felt less like a story and more like a warning. 2 days ago, she had received a message, no name, coordinates, a hotel lobby, and one line. He gave me the tape. She knew the risks. Still, she booked the next flight to Portugal. Now, as the clock neared midnight, a man entered the lobby. Mid-40s American, with a limp he didn't try to hide and a burn scar on the right side of his neck. His name was Elijah Ward. Ex-intelligence. Expendable once. Dangerous now. He didn't shake hands, just nodded toward the elevator. In silence, they entered a suite on the 6th floor. Inside, no suitcase, no food, just blackout curtains and an old laptop with an external drive. "You came alone?" he asked. Lena nodded, then listened carefully, Elijah said. What Denzel did wasn't a rant. It wasn't ego. It was controlled, surgical, and he did it because he knew they were closing in. He opened the drive and pulled up a video file. The timestamp read 2 weeks before the Colbert interview. It was Denzel sitting in a quiet, private room, staring into a handheld camera. No stage, no lights, just him, raw and unscripted. "They asked me to kill a film once," Denzel began in the video. "Back in '98, said it was too provocative, that it blurred the lines between fiction and policy. But it wasn't fiction, it was truth wrapped in drama. The kind that opens eyes." He looked down, then back up. That script, the Caldera project, was based on a real operation. Covert U.S. intervention in Angola, tied to lithium rights and a puppet regime. They used the story to train operatives, then sold it to a studio as fiction, but the original writer disappeared. The rewrite was sanitized. Safe, I walked away. Elijah paused the video. He was supposed to be the lead in that film. But when he read the original script, he started digging. What he found: State Department involvement in Hollywood funding, media platforms getting grants from strategic culture foundations, interviews being edited with CIA-approved language shook him. Lena narrowed her eyes. "This all sounds like conspiracy." "It is," Elijah said, "except it's true." He clicked another folder. Side were declassified memos, internal emails, and project drafts. One stood out titled Narrative Integration Protocols, Media Influence. Division, nip mid-closing parenthesis. It detailed how certain late-night shows, including Colbert's, received context framing suggestions before high-profile interviews. The memo reference to guest deviation thresholds, audience sync testing, and editorial triggers. One section was underlined. If guest deviates from approved subject zones, activate fail-safe protocol, segment cut, redirect through humor, initiate digital suppression. "That's what happened to Denzel," Elijah said. Lena read the memo twice. It was precise, chilling, and the footage. Say asked, "Why did you have it?" "I was his shadow for 6 months. Denzel knew what he was getting into. He hired me to document everything in case he didn't make it to the next stage." This, Elijah gestured to the drive, is the firewall. Lena felt her pulse rise. Why now? Why go public? Because he's gone, Elijah said quietly. Disappeared from the clinic. Phone's dead. Bank account frozen. His family's being watched. They're erasing him in real time. Stared at the laptop. And what do you want from me? I want you to finish what he started, Elijah said. Get this to someone who still believes the public deserves the truth. Lena stood, her voice calm. Then I'll take it. But you need to disappear. He handed her the drive, already planned for. An hour later, she was on the Move New Identity, secure bag, offline laptop. The drive felt heavy in her coat pocket. Not because of its size, but because of what it carried in the skies over Europe. As her plane crossed toward Berlin, her phone buzzed once. Private message, unknown number. You have something that doesn't belong to you. Return it. Or, we find you. She turned the phone off and dropped it into a glass of water in her head. Denzel's words echoed from the tape. Truth doesn't knock politely. It breaks doors. And someone, somewhere, was already turning the lock. The Berlin apartment was dark, narrow, and smelled faintly of cold metal and paper. Lena didn't turn on any lights. She moved by, memory-locking 3 bolts, drawing the blackout curtains, placing the drive on the center of her steel desk like it was a bomb. Outside, snow touched the edge of the window pane. Inside, the world was shifting. She hadn't slept since Lisbon. She plugged the drive into a burner laptop. No internet, no Bluetooth. No microphone, no chance for interference. The file folders were labeled simply Caldera, Nitmid, Studio Reels, and one named Original. She opened the last one first. A video. Grainy, raw, no edits. Denzel, alone again. Same setting, same weary face. But this time, the voice trembled slightly. I was approached in 2003, he began. A man from D.C. said the Pentagon was interested in film as soft deterrence. Said my face had global emotional equity. That's how they talk about people, like assets. Lena leaned closer. He said stories matter more than statistics. That one frame of an American hero liberating a village can do more than 10 years of boots on the ground. I said no, but then the offers changed. He paused as if choosing carefully. I was shown a script. The Caldera Project. It wasn't fiction. It was a confession. He leaned in. The U.S. funded civil wars to secure rare earth resources, then rewrote the aftermath as blockbuster drama. Turned tragedy into training films. Buried the writers, promoted the actors. The screen froze, then cut to black. Lena exhaled. This wasn't just a warning. It was testimony. She opened the Nitmid folder next. Hundreds of PDFs, internal memos, contracts, slide decks. One in particular stood out: an agreement between a major streaming platform and a front agency called the Global Narrative Council. It outlined embedded narrative alignment protocols, offering production grants in exchange for editorial compliance on international themes. One line read, "Placement of heroic American identities in geopolitical conflicts should occur at least once every 4 episodes. For Tier 1 markets, India, South Korea, Mexico." Lena felt sick. Another memo was from 2017. Subject, Stephen Colbert. Guest handling framework. Colbert team approved for Level 2 narrative engagement. Guest lists should avoid unvetted actors, especially those with activist history. In event of non-compliance during live taping, follow standard failsafe, shift to humor, request commercial trigger line mute. They hadn't muted Denzel. He'd moved too fast. The team panicked. The delay caused the clip to leak before it could be buried. And now? She held everything. She opened the Studio Reels folder. There it was, a rough cut of the Caldera Project. Unreleased, never shown, never finished. But fully shot. Denzel in the lead role, speaking lines that no one had ever heard. They don't conquer with guns anymore. They conquer with stories. stories that make them heroes and us background noise. She hit pause. There were dates on the file created June 14th, 2005. Last modified January 8th, 2006. But the film was never mentioned after that. Buried outside. A siren wailed, then stopped. Her phone lit up in the other room. A number she didn't recognize. She didn't move. She waited. It rang again. Then a text. You have 2 hours before they breach. Upload it now. She ran. She grabbed the Faraday bag, stuffed the drive and laptop inside, and darted through the back stairwell. The snow had begun to fall heavier. She moved toward the subway, hood up, eyes low. Every passing man looked like a threat. Every shadow felt like surveillance. She reached an old hacker cope on the east side. She'd been there. Once during a story on election disinformation. They owed her. The guy inside Luke didn't ask questions. Just pointed to a dark server room in the back. You uploading truth or causing war? He asked as she passed. Sometimes it's the same thing, she said. She plugged into a cold line server. No tags, no metadata. It's just raw data blasted across. Decentralized nodes. As the upload bar ticked past 20%. Lucas returned with a burner phone. It just came in through one of your shadow relays. She took it. A voice message. 1 second. Denzel's voice. If you're hearing this, they've either erased me or failed. Either way, you finish it. Don't let them turn me into a cautionary tale. She stared at the screen. 48%. The servers groaned. More data, more pressure. More. Eyes dot and then the power blinked dot. Just once. Enough to send her heart into overdrive. Lucas swore and kicked a backup generator into gear. 69%. Lena stared at the door. They're coming, she whispered. And in that moment, all she could think about was one line from the banned film burned into her mind. Silence is never accidental. It's engineered. And now she would make them hear. The last 10% felt like an hour. Every second, Lena stared at the upload bar like it was a heartbeat. The server whirred louder as the temperature rose in. The small Berlin server room. Lucas stood near the breaker panel, sweat rolling down his temple despite the cold outside. Then the bar flashed green. Upload complete. She exhaled. Lucas looked at her. It's live. Every node's got a copy. They'll never kill it now. Lena backed away from the desk. Her legs shook. She didn't know if it was fear or adrenaline. Or both. She pulled out the burner phone and messaged 3 contacts. Phoenix, online. Firewall, deployed. Somewhere in South Africa, a journalist she trusted would get the encrypted key. In Mexico City, a documentary team would receive the master files. In Malaysia, a rights lawyer would receive the script. Denzel's story wasn't just uploaded, it was activated. A distant boom echoed through the city. Lucas flinched. That's not thunder. She didn't respond. She was already packing. As she stepped outside, she saw the drone first maul, silent, hovering like a fly above the street. Her breath caught, too slow to run, visible to hide. Then it turned and zipped away. Distraction. She spun just as 2 unmarked black vans screeched to a stop across the street. Armed men in dark coats jumped out, speaking in English, not German. This wasn't local police. She ducked into an alley and ran, sprinting over wet cobblestone, slipping once, catching herself on a dumpster, blood smearing her palm. Her chest pounded. The air cut her throat. A door ahead half open. She burst through it and into an abandoned butcher's shop. She crouched behind the counter as boots thundered outside. Then silence. She didn't move. Not for 5 minutes. Not until the sound of sirens drew them away. She waited another 10, then crawled out the back and melted into the side streets. By dawn, she was on a train headed for Prague. Across the world, the fallout had begun. In New York, the caldera. Project Leak went viral within 4 hours. First through private group chats, then fringe forums. Then TikTok. Clips of Denzel's off-screen testimony filmed in his apartment showed him accusing U.S. agencies of rewriting not just history, but identity. They didn't erase the story, he said. They just changed the ending. A clip from the film, buried since 2005, showed Denzel's character walking through a bombed village, whispering, "They didn't need to shoot us. They just needed us to forget." It was haunting. It was real. People couldn't stop watching. News anchors tried to contain it. CNN questioned the film's authenticity. Fox claimed it was deepfake propaganda. CBS remained silent. But none of it worked. Within 24 hours, #CalderaTruth trended globally. In universities, students began organizing screenings of the raw footage. The original script uploaded in full was being translated into 31 languages. Then came the first break in the dam. A former Netflix executive anonymously posted a signed memo from 2016, showing how certain films were deprioritized after Pentagon consultation. Another leak revealed the Department of Defense's Entertainment Liaison Office had reviewed 1,700 film scripts since 2002. And then someone hacked the WGA's secure archive. They posted a list of 48 screenwriters blacklisted between 1990 and 2010. All had submitted unsuitable scripts involving U.S. foreign policy. Most had vanished from the industry. One had vanished entirely. Jorge de la Paz, the original writer of the Caldera Project. His name was back in headlines after 2 decades. But his face was still missing. Lena sat in a Prague cafe watching it all unfold on a muted TV screen. Her laptop sat closed beside her. She looked older, eyes sunken, skin pale, hair messy under a knit cap. She sipped cold coffee and opened a notebook. Inside, a single name, Jorge de la Paz. She didn't know if he was dead or in hiding, or erased like so many others. But something told her he had more to say. Maybe he left clues in the script. Maybe he was waiting for the right time. Or maybe he'd already given it all to Denzel. Now the actor was gone too, and her phone buzzed. A single message, encrypted. "You think the film was the only thing buried?" No sender. No reply possible. Just those words. She stared at the screen, mind racing. What else had Denzel found? What hadn't she uploaded? And more importantly, who else was watching? The story was no longer about a broken interview. It was about who broke the silence. The grave was unmarked, just a narrow patch of scorched earth at the edge of a hillside cemetery near Cartagena, Colombia. Locals said it belonged to no one. But Lena stood there, shivering under a wool shawl, holding a small photo of Jorge de la Paz. In the picture, he was younger, smiling, holding a typewriter surrounded by books. The image had been sent anonymously 3 nights ago. The sender claimed Jorge had been buried there in 2007 after being disappeared. She didn't believe it. Not yet. She crouched down, brushed the dirt with her hand, and placed the photo near the stone. Then she opened her notebook. Inside were scribbled lines from the Caldera Project, script lines she'd memorized but couldn't shake. One kept returning. The story they bury is always the one that matters most. Lena believed Jorge had left a trail, not in the plot, but in the edits, phrases, cutscenes, reordered, hidden map. She just didn't know where it led yet. By nightfall, she was in a cheap hotel on the outskirts. She used no credit cards, no calls. She only opened her laptop once the door was bolted and windows covered. The video of Denzel's off-air monologue had now reached 94 million views across platforms. But the official media remained quiet. No interviews, no debates, just silence. Then her email blinked. New message, no subject, just a link. She hesitated. Opened it on a clean drive. It was a scan of a classified document dated 1997. Caldera Phase 2, Descent Control below. In shaky handwriting, a note. He changed the ending. That's why they killed it. Attached was a script file slightly different from the one she'd already leaked. She opened it. Same characters, same setup. But the final scene was gone, replaced by a single word. Redacted. Lena's eyes widened. The public version of the script, the one Denzel kept referencing, was incomplete, which meant someone else had the real ending. She scanned the metadata. Last modified, March 2006. Location Ping, Accra, Ghana. Her pulse quickened. That's where Denzel had vanished to after the leak. That's where the message had come from. You think the film was the only thing buried? He wasn't just hiding, he was finishing it. And maybe Jorge wasn't buried either. Maybe the grave was the start, not the end. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., storm clouds gathered. Inside a secure hearing room on Capitol Hill, a closed door. Emergency session was underway. 5 senators, 3 agency heads, and a legal counsel sat behind polished wood desks. A large screen displayed the leaked documents. The chair of the Intelligence Committee, Senator Raymond Holt, leaned forward. Is there any way to prove these files are false? A defense analyst shook his head. No, sir. The metadata, the cross-sourcing, the witness statements. It's airtight. They buried this. And now it's loose. A second screen showed rising protests outside CBS headquarters in New York. Thousands chanting, "Who writes the script?" Another feed showed a classroom in Kenya projecting the Caldera project onto a wall. Students watching in silence. Senator Holt whispered, "We're losing the narrative." The CIA director leaned back. Then we shift the frame. Discredit, distract, deny. That's always been the play. Will it work this time? A pause. Then a quiet answer. No. Lena booked her flight to Ghana. No luggage. Just a flash drive and a paper journal. As the plane lifted off, she stared out the window. The world below was dark, but she knew what waited in the light. Accra, the last known location of the man who had made the world stop smiling. She landed before dawn. No one met her, but as she stepped out into the street, a boy approached. He couldn't have been more than 12. He handed her a note, folded carefully. Inside, if they kill the ending, write a new one. Kumasi, Blue Gate. Ask for Elijah. She stared at the paper. Elijah? He was supposed to be dead or captured. Instead, he was waiting. Somewhere deeper than even the leak could reach, and with him, maybe. The final truth. The Blue Gate was rusted, covered in ivy, and partially hidden behind an overgrown mango tree on the outskirts of Kumasi. The neighborhood was quiet, children playing in alleyways, an old man sharpening knives in a doorway, the hum of distant motorbikes. No signs of surveillance, no armed men, no black vans. But Lena knew better. Silence was often where danger waited. She knocked once. No answer. Then twice, slower, harder. A latch clicked. The door opened just enough for a voice to speak from. Behind it, name, she answered. Lena Qureshi. A pause. Then purpose. She didn't hesitate to finish the story. The gate creaked open. Inside, the courtyard was cluttered with satellite parts, cables, paper maps, and rusted film reels. A small generator buzzed in one corner. And under the shadow of a canvas tarp stood Elijah Wardlove, thinner, his beard longer, but eyes sharp as ever. I wasn't sure they'd send you, he said. They didn't, she replied. I followed the trail. He nodded, motioned her inside. Denzel said you would. The house was a bunker, sandbags under the windows, too. Laptops running on battery, walls lined with printed documents and photos. Lena spotted a grainy picture of Jorge de la Paz with someone she hadn't expected. A young Denzel, standing beside him, hands covered in ink, as if they had just finished writing something together. They knew each other, she asked. Mentor and student, Elijah said. Jorge taught Denzel everything: how to write stories that scared governments, how to bury truth inside fiction. He pulled a small case from under the floorboards. Inside, a hard drive labeled Caldera, original final draft, the 6th of April, 06. Why hasn't this been released? Kestis. Because this, Elijah said, tapping the drive is the one that names names. He connected it to an offline terminal and clicked play. The screen came to life. The final scene of the Caldera project. Denzel's character, an African war journalist, stands inside a UN tribunal surrounded by diplomats. His voice is ragged, tired, but resolute. You sold peace like a product. You used war as branding. You rewrote history with a script. You paid writers to forget. And when the real story surfaced, you called it too dangerous. But I'm still here. And I remember the camera panned over the faces in the room, each one modeled after real-world leaders and corporate figures. The implication was clear. These were not just characters. These were stand-ins for the powerful. Then the screen cut to black. One final title card appeared, written by Jorge de la Paz, edited by Denzel Washington. Truth is not a plot device. Lena sat back in her chair. It wasn't just a script. It was a legal brief, a historical record, a coded indictment. Elijah turned to her. They didn't kill Jorge. He vanished himself. Left that grave in Cartagena to buy time. He knew once. This version got out, they'd come for everyone connected. And Denzel, she asked. Taken, Elijah said. Right after he sent me this drive. But not by the U.S., not directly. It was private. Contracted. Lena narrowed her eyes. Private. Elijah opened another folder. Inside photos. Invoices and names. Black Ridge Strategic, a defense contractor with offices in Arlington, Virginia. Ties to 3 film studios. Their client list included major streaming platforms, public broadcasters, and foreign intelligence. They're not just shaping the narrative, Elijah said. They own it. Lena stood slowly. We need to get this to every investigative desk in the world. Won't matter, Elijah said. They'll bury it like before. If it goes out everywhere at once, he raised an eyebrow. She explained her planned simultaneous drop on open-source servers. Translation bots running 24/7, mirrored on blockchain nodes. Embedded inside a short film disguised as a student project. No one would expect the truth hidden inside an art piece. Elijah stared at her for a moment, then smiled. Jorge would have liked you. They worked through the night. By dawn, the entire Caldera project original script, final cut, internal. Memos. Denzel's testimony was encoded, encrypted, and ready to launch. But just before they hit send, a message flashed on Elijah's satellite feed from an unknown server in Geneva. It was a live video. Denzel Washington. Alive, bruised, eyes bloodshot, voice hoarse. Broadcasting from what looked like a basement. If you're seeing this, they let me speak for 60 seconds. Maybe they think it won't matter. But I need you to know there's more. The Caldera project was only one file. There are 6 more, hidden in plain sight. In your movies, in your news, in your history books. Oh. If they erase me, look where I stood, what I said, and what they were afraid of. Then the screen went black. Elijah slammed his fist on the table. They're bluffing. They're trying to shake us, but Lena was already moving. Then we hit send before the lights go out. And as her finger hovered over the launch button, the final line from Denzel's hidden film echoed in her mind. The story doesn't end when the credits roll. It ends when you stop asking who wrote them. The signal went out at 6:03 a.m. local time. With a single encrypted command, Lena launched the final files across the web. The drive's contents: raw footage, memos, full screenplay, Denzel's final monologue. Internal government agreements spread through mirror servers, decentralized forums, and whistleblower Dropboxes. It was no longer a leak. It was a broadcast. Within 2 hours, anonymous nodes in Serbia, South Korea, and Iceland confirmed the files were live. By noon, 3 major news platforms, one in Argentina, one in Norway, and a rogue editor at The Guardian published front-page investigations titled The Caldera Truth. It didn't matter who tried to discredit it. The original evidence was open source, the chain of custody public, the metadata untouched, and then silence broke. In Washington. The White House press room swelled with reporters shouting over each other. Has the president seen the leak? Was the Pentagon aware of the studio contracts? Is it true the U.S. rewrote war crimes as screenplays? The press secretary held the podium with shaking hands, reading from prepared statements, dodging names, stammering phrases like ongoing, review, and classified partnerships. Meanwhile, footage of Denzel's hacked basement broadcast his final warning was aired on a loop in Nairobi, Sydney, Toronto, and Cairo. Protesters gathered outside consulates, embassies, and media offices holding signs that said, "Truth isn't a script." Denzel spoke. "You cut him. We're the final scene." In Ghana, Elijah and Lena watched the screens light up in real time. "I think we broke something," Elijah muttered. Lena didn't smile. Her fingers tapped the table. "I think we exposed something that was already broken." But even as the truth spread, danger closed in. That afternoon, an encrypted message arrived on Elijah's private relay. "They've activated Protocol Echo. Erase your team's en route. You have 72 hours. Disappear." Protocol Echo was an old Black Ops playbook designed for clean removal of media. Threats, no arrests, no headlines, just absence. Deniable. Effective. They both knew what it meant. "Go," Elijah said, tossing her a fresh passport, SIM cards, and a thumb drive. "Take it to Geneva. The UN is holding a private hearing on disinformation. You need to speak." Lena frowned. "They won't listen. They will if you bring the tape." He pointed to a small black case beside the generator. Inside, a reel of analog film, untouched, real celluloid. Denzel had made one copy silent raw, the kind that couldn't be hacked, duplicated, or edited. Lena grabbed it and left. By midnight, she was crossing into Togo under a false identity. 3 time zones away. Elijah watched his feed go dead, servers overwhelmed. Then the cameras in the compound blinked off one by one. They had come for him. He turned off the lights, walked to the center of the courtyard, and waited. In Geneva, under heavy snow, Lena stepped through the UN's private media chamber, holding the reel like it was sacred. Across from her sat 23 diplomats, 7 journalists, and 4 media regulators. Cameras were banned. No recording, just a projection. She placed the reel onto an old machine and spoke quietly. "This is not a film. This is a record." Then she pressed play. The room dimmed. The reel began. On screen, Denzel stood in a ruined village, set barefoot, bleeding, shaking, but it wasn't acting. This was footage never meant for the public. His real voice. No retakes, no script. "You buried the dead with silence, then rewrote their stories to sell hope. But real hope needs memory, not mythology." The diplomats shifted in their chairs. The next scene showed real war footage, clips Jorge de la Paz had spliced in secretly from Angola, Liberia, Syria, urged with scenes from the Caldera Project. Fiction and reality blurred. The point was clear. You didn't just forget the truth, you replaced it. The reel ended in silence. Lena stood. This was suppressed because it named names. Because it proved the world's most powerful weapon isn't guns. It's narrative. Someone in the back stood to speak. A South African delegate, voice trembling. "Where is Mr. Washington now?" Lena's eyes welled up. "We don't know." The room went quiet. Then one diplomat clapped. Then another. Then all of them. They voted unanimously to open a formal investigation into the global manipulation of media by state-funded entertainment. That night, Lena sat in a small hostel outside the city, watching footage of her testimony being smuggled across dark web channels. The world had finally heard, but she knew it wasn't over. Because just before she went dark, another message reached her inbox. No name, no subject. Just 6 words. 1, reel down. 6 to go.